Hi everyone, my name is Tom Seaman. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to do a video today about stress, fear, trauma, and neurogenic tremoring. So most of us are familiar with the fight or flight stress response, but there are two other responses that we can have. One of them is called the fawn response, which is where we attempt to appease or please a perceived threat to avoid conflict or harm. And the other one, which will be the focus of the video, is called the freeze response. This gets activated due to a perceived or real inability to take action. In other words, the freeze response is when someone feels helpless to fight or run from a threatening, painful, or stressful experience. The freeze response and something called neurogenic tremoring will be the focus of this video. It applies to people in ways they may have never imagined, often people with movement disorders like I have, which is called dystonia, and anyone really dealing with past or present trauma of any kind, or macro or micro stress over a period of time. Shortly, I'm going to show you a video of me experiencing this form of tremors and what it all means. So during the freeze response, the body becomes tense and paralyzed. Thoughts, sensations, and emotions about the stressful experience become suppressed or internalized. This is not only in the mind, but in the tissues of the body as well. It's called somatic memory, and it can have damaging physical and emotional effects if the event or trauma is not processed in a healthy way. For an example of how this works, Jonathan Tripodi wrote a book called Freedom from Body Memory. He's also the founder of the Body Memory Recall approach. And he talks about a cat chasing a mouse. So when a mouse is approached by a cat, it's going to run away. If the mouse is cornered, the mouse might try to fight back. But once the mouse realizes that it can't win by fighting the bigger animal and can't run away, it becomes paralyzed with fear. This is the freeze response. So the cat may swat at the mouse and it may even try to bite it, but the mouse remains frozen with tension. The cat will eventually probably interpret the mouse and its frozen state as a sign that it's dead, or it will leave it in search of more stimulating prey. So once this threat is over, and if the mouse does survive, it will come out of the freeze response by spontaneously discharging excess energy through involuntary movements. These include shaking, trembling, and deep spontaneous breaths. This discharge process resets the autonomic nervous system, which restores equilibrium. Body memory from the attack is released, and the mouse walks away as if nothing ever happened. The mouse has effectively survived and released the traumatic experience. It does not carry any tension from the attack, and its body is again at ease. This is similar to a deer that freezes at the sight of headlights. When the threat has passed, it trembles violently, which shakes off the event and then goes about its business without lasting impairment. This shaking is called neurogenic tremoring. This happens spontaneously in nature, literally all the time. Unfortunately, the process does not happen too often with humans, which is why I want to talk about this. The primary difference between animals and humans is that we don't tend to go through the instinctive discharge of the freeze response. This leaves us vulnerable to constriction and pain. Because we are experts at rationalizing things, judgments, shame, and fear of uncomfortable bodily sensations, we disrupt our innate capacity to self-regulate by having these neurogenic tremors. This functionally recycles disabling terror and helplessness where we live the experiences over and over, even if on a subconscious level. Living in this kind of state of mind can sometimes be the reason for physical and emotional and psychological health issues from developing or persisting, because when we hold on to an uncomfortable, painful, traumatic experience, we live it over and over when we are triggered by the memory of it. Please understand that neurogenic tremoring is the natural response of a shocked or disrupted nervous system attempting to restore neurophysiologic homeostasis of the body. That's a mouthful, so you may want to rewind and hear that again. So the tremors and vibrations we experience, it restores a relaxed muscle state to prevent the development of health problems. The tremors and vibrations signal the brain to release tension to return to a resting state. This helps us better adapt to our environment in general, and this process of adaptation makes us stronger and more prepared to deal with difficult future experiences. If we don't deal with them like this, then it becomes more difficult and challenging, and we are much more quickly and easily triggered by future experiences of stress and trauma. So if you have a constant tremor, don't rule out the possibility that your body might be doing this to try to heal from some form of trauma or heavy stress, either in the present or past, or both. If you resist the tremor, it might persist. Now, this is not to say that this is the case for everybody with tremors, but I have never met anyone with a tremor, a chronic tremor, who has not undergone severe trauma and intense fear at one or more times in their lives. I have personally experienced neurogenic tremoring on several occasions. The first time was after being stopped for a speeding ticket, which I'm not too happy to admit, but I did get one. Anyway, while I was talking to the police officer, I was nervous, of course, but pretty much at ease. But as I was driving away, my body began to shake. It wasn't heavy shaking, but I knew that it was neurogenic tremoring, so I allowed my body to shake without resistance. When I got home in about 10 minutes, my mind and body were relaxed and the shaking was over. The key to releasing the energy from the stress and worry of the traffic stop was to not resist the shaking and tremoring. On another occasion, which was much more intense, I received alarming news very personal to me that shocked my system. And I had even more severe shaking than the previous example as I was trying to process the information. This is what you are now seeing in the video, and I'm playing it over and over so you can see how neurogenic tremoring looks. I wasn't cold as it may appear. This is just my body naturally and instinctively releasing the trauma via neurogenic tremoring. And I'm going to play it kind of in a loop because the video itself, I was only able to capture about maybe 15-20 seconds of it when it actually lasted for about 3 to 5 minutes. Now, once again, in this situation, knowing what it was, I let the shaking and tremoring happen without resistance or interference. When the shaking was over, I felt so at ease, and the stress and trauma and shock I had experienced was released. Now, I want to make it clear that that is not the same as seizures or tremors caused by neurological disease or movement disorders. This is just the nervous system discharging tension and recalibrating itself to find homeostasis after a shock to my particular into my system in this particular situation. So if you ever experience similar stress or trauma-induced shaking or tremoring like in this video, let it happen. If you feel it coming on, see how much it may actually come on. When it begins for me, it's just very mild shaking, and then I just allow it to go, and it intensifies, and then it travels through my body and then just stops completely. So remember, this is the body recalibrating the nervous system. If we resist this shaking, we prevent ourselves from healing from the event. And this repression of trauma causes it to be stored in our muscles and our subconscious, which is what may cause some health problems or keep certain health problems alive. So this being the case, while it might be uncomfortable to go through the shaking, I actually kind of like it. It's a really cool feeling. The short-term discomfort of shaking is better than the potential long-term damage. So let yourself shake. Don't resist, because it's the body's way of healing. And for more information on this, there's a guy named David Berceli who came up with a technique called trauma releasing exercises. And they are designed to induce neurogenic tremoring for the purpose of releasing stored trauma and stress that we've had in the body for probably years for many of us. So trauma releasing exercises, or TRE, and there are practitioners all over the country that can do this remotely or in person. So thanks for watching this. I hope it was helpful and interesting to you. It's something that I was not aware of until I began researching stress for that portion of the two books that I wrote. And a lot of this information I'm sharing comes from those two books. One of them is called Beyond Pain and Suffering, Adapting to Adversity and Life Challenges. And another book is called Diagnosis Dystonia, Navigating the Journey. If you would like to see more of my videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the link below the video. You can also check out my website, which is tomseamancoaching.com. I've got a lot of information on physical and emotional health issues and links to a lot of resources, and have other videos and lots of articles and all sorts of resources that you might find helpful. I am also a pain and dystonia coach. If you ever want to explore working with me, you can sign up for that on my website. You can also just email me or send me a message through any of my social media. So please feel free to reach out with any comments or questions. And thanks again for watching. Take care of yourselves and please be well.